All right, all right. Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to the YouTube channel, The Black Brain Trust. Today is Monday, August 6th, and today we should have a great show for you all. Today we'll be going over things talking about ABI, talking about IBM. China is in the news today. Crypto's on the docket, all the way to aliens, finding aliens, and something about the Pyramid of Giza. Excuse me, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Something about energy. But with all that said, we're going to go ahead and start the show by talking about the first topic on the docket bars. All right. The first, make sure, yep, I'm sharing. First topic. This comes from The Verge, written by James Vincent, dated July 30. OpenAI sets new benchmark for robotic dexterity. AI is teaching robots more elegant movements, but they still can't match humans in learning power. Nothing in this world, animal or robot, quite comes close to the flexibility and dexterity of the human hand. For engineers at the Elon Musk founded nonprofit OpenAI, this presented both a challenge and an opportunity. How could their researchers use artificial intelligence to teach a robot to manipulate objects as artfully as a human? Usually, when teaching an AI to control a physical robot, scientists tend to come up against the same problems. Training is often done using reinforcement learning, a method where the AI learns through a process of trial and error. But this requires a lot of time, usually amounting to years of experience. That's fine if you want an AI to beat, say, a video game. You just let it play the game at an accelerated rate. But if you want to teach it a real life task, you're in trouble. You can't wait for robot arms to muddle through years of practice, and it's hard to get a simulation of the world that's accurate enough for training purposes. For OpenAI, the tasks they've set themselves was teaching a robot hand to manipulate was teaching a robot hand to manipulate a six-sided cube, moving it from one position to another so a specific side was facing up. As with earlier research, they began by simulating this environment as accurately as possible. But their next step was what made the difference. They began messing with the simulation. First, they added random visual noise. Then, they changed the colors of the virtual hand and cube. They randomized the size of the cube, how slippery its surfaces were, and how heavy it was. They even messed with the simulation's gravity. The effect of all this was to give the AI a better understanding of what it might be like to manipulate the cube in the real world. While the simulation may not have been totally true to life, it had enough variations that it allowed the system to learn to deal with the unexpected. OpenAI's Matthias Plappert, who worked on the project, explains that changing the simulation's gravity was a particularly fun hack. The team knew that when the AI system, known as Dactyl, was controlling a robot hand, the base of the hand might not be positioned at the same angle each time. A lower angle would mean the cube will fall out of the hand more easily. In order to teach Dactyl how to handle this variant, they decided they would randomize the angle of gravity in the situation. Without this randomization, it would just drop the object all the time because it wasn't used to it, says Playpert. Going through all these randomizations took a long time, though, a seriously long time. In fact, Dactyl had to accumulate roughly 100 years worth of experience to reach top performance. That in turn meant the team had to use a lot of computing power, some 6,144 CPUs and eight powerful, NVIDIA V100 GPUs. That's the sort of hardware that's accessible to only a few, very few research institutions. But that end results, but the end results were worth it, says Plappert. Once fully trained, Dactyl was able to move the cube from one position to another up to 50 times in a row without dropping it. Although the median number of times it did was so much smaller, just 13. And in learning to move the cube around in his hand, Dactyl even developed human-like behaviors. All this was learned without any human instruction, just trial and error for decades at a time. This shows that what we humans do for manipulation is very optimized, says Flappert. It's a very interesting moment when you look at a robot trying to solve a problem and you think, oh, hey, that's how I would do that too. Now, in the picture, the caption of the picture says OpenAI's researchers adjust the robotic hand controlled by their AI system, Dactyl. So my question to you is, Mike, I understand the gist of what they were doing. I understand that they say that when the robot hand controls an object in this, the cube, that it won't hold it or grab it in the same position. They're going to be different positions. You're going to pick it up, manipulate it, and so forth. Um, this, I don't think this is a question I'm asking, but they are putting in serious work in this AI, learn teaching it and having it learn for itself how to get around, and for this article purposes, the dexterity of the human hand, how to do the same thing.
Yeah, because you have to keep in mind that a human being, right? Um, how many years does it take for to go from to being a toddler, learning how to, catch a ball or kick a ball or things of that nature? When you think about going from crawling to walking, to
Mm.
running, that takes quite a bit of time. So it makes sense that this takes just as much time to develop the AI, and the whole dexterity issue is complex because your brain is complex as well because you pick up an object and you have to make there's a lot of processing power that goes into how much does this weigh, how should I hold it, like a baseball, a
Mm.
knuckleball, um, you know,
Slider, curveball, change. Yeah.
all the variations to that. And
Yeah.
if you're a pitcher, how many times do you practice that in order to get it right?
And on top of that, now that you say that, I'm getting a bigger picture. Not only if you pitching, but say if it's a windy day, now you got to alter. Okay, I got to throw it even more fast. I got to throw it faster to cut through this wind. Just the variations. Now,
Exactly.
I, when you were saying growing up and learning how to kick the ball, what immediately popped in my head was writing, holding a pen or a pencil, writing, not only in your simple letters, but cursive or calligraphy or any other type of writing style. And those things we take for granted, but seeing how they are going through this whole process of, you could even say teaching a baby how to do things hands on, a lot of the things we take for granted.
I think the difference between a toddler, right, would be the amount of processing power that a toddler has, the capability a toddler has, from a processing standpoint, right? So you kind of when we refer to it, we say baby steps, right? So we have to go through a very um, short and simplified process. Whereas with the AI, you're throwing a whole bunch of algorithms and instructions at it to function as an adult when it's still in a child state.
Mm.
And you can actually do that because the amount of processing power that's available today makes that possible.
Now let me ask you this question. Say, well, let's fast forward into the future, and they have robots that look like humans. Say we live in the Ex Machina. Am I saying it right? Ex Machinima,
I don't think so.
or you know a movie I'm talking about, right? The robot with the AI looked like a human, but obviously it was AI.
Oh, you mean with Scarlett Johansson?
Is it the one? I think that's the one. No, no, that's not the one. It's the X. You know what? I'm sitting up here in front of a computer. Ex Machina. Uh, I don't think, but anyway, say we get to a world that looks like not as provocative as this, looks like this,
Hmm.
and you have multiple of these walking around, look like us, and you really can't tell them apart. Say one of these go through an experience that all of them do not go through, a learning process, of learning how to drive or build or make steel. Can they then share that knowledge with others?
Yeah, for the most part, because you would be connected to a cloud-based system anyways, so you're constantly sharing information. You live in a connected society. You're sharing information.
Okay, so even though these are babies, well, what I'm trying to get is even though these are baby steps, say these are the first years of Terminator, just to give everybody's a point of reference. These are the first years of Terminator, and you got the humans teaching these robots how to do simple tasks, manipulate the cube. After a while, the learning curve of these robots slash AIs, I'm thinking, is going to leapfrog humans because they're if one AI learns a something new, how to speak Spanish or a Chinese dialect, then they can then go ahead and transfer that knowledge down or upload and download that knowledge to another AI. I don't know if I'm thinking too far or I'm out there or not, but that's when I look at this picture, those are all the things I think.
Hmm. Well, the technology today works through push updates, right? So if there's a breaking news or some kind of weather service alert, what happens? Everybody gets the same message, right?
Hmm.
It would be no different when you're talking about dealing with AI and Ex Machina, right? So you have all these um, AI driven semi humans walking around, basically sharing information with each other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's exactly what I was saying. That's what exactly what I was getting at. That's exactly what I was getting at. And I remember it's pronounced ex machina. Yeah, yeah. I couldn't get that one. All right. Any other points on that one? Make sure.
Nope.
All right. Let's get to our next article. Um, this one is from what's this? Investing.com, written by Reuters, July 30. Title: CLS, IBM, and Bank. CLS, IBM, and Banks test blockchain app store. Hmm. Written by Anna Irira. All right, New York Reuters. Foreign exchange settlement provider CLS, IBM, and nine financial institutions, including Barclays and Citigroup, are testing a platform to access blockchain based applications, the company said on Monday. The platform Ledger Connect will offer applications and services provided by different vendors in areas such as customer compliance checks, sanitation screening, and collateral management, the company said. Ledger Connect, which is based on a model similar to that of consumer app stores, aims to make it easier and cheaper for financial firms to use blockchain based software. Blockchain, which first emerged as the system underpinning cryptocurrency Bitcoin, is a shared ledger of transactions that is maintained by a network of computers rather than a centralized authority. Banks and other financial institutions have been investing millions of dollars in developing the technology which they believe can help them simplify some of their processes and cut costs. While many blockchain based applications are being tested by banks, few have gone into production. CLS and IBM hope that Ledger Connect can help speed up adoption by making blockchain based software for financial firms more reliable, more readily available, they said. Building and testing each application individually by banks would be too costly and time consuming, they said. A shared platform run by an existing market structure provider can also help ensure that the applications by different vendors are vetted to meet the technical and security standards required by financial firms. Alan Markert, Chief Strategist and Development Officer at CLS, said in an interview. CLS settles over 5 trillion of payment instructions a day for its members, which include many of the world's largest financial institutions, such as Barclays and Citi. Barclays is participating in the Ledger Connect proof of concept so we can gain an understanding and experience of a new network for blockchain applications and also test some candidate use cases on the network. Lee Brain from the Chief Technology Office of Barclays Investment Bank said in an email. After the platform has been tested and provided, there is sufficient market demand. CLS and IBM hope to make it widely available to the industry. My a few thoughts about this when it said a app store. I immediately thought that you'll have developed, much like the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, you'll have developers creating blockchain based apps that people can possibly, or according to this article, banks can use, banks and financial institutions can use to help them streamline and make their everyday business more efficient. On top of that, when they said App Store, I immediately thought, and I could be wrong about this, but I immediately thought of apps, developers making apps you could download on your Apple, Google, or any other phone you have that can help you just much like a regular apps, but they're blockchain based. I want to say hello to Nagon. How you doing, Nagon?
It was going to go.
What's up? What's up, fellas? What's up? Yeah, I was just taking a little listen there, and banks coming in with blockchain apps. But I was reading something a little earlier. I think someone said an article out, but it also brings up some of my own fears where Wall Street's get involved, and it looks like some of this blockchain. These guys are worrying about some of the corruptions that might come from the Wall Street side with respect to blockchain. Are you guys kind of familiar with some of those concerns?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to reduce the amount of corruption that you do see. Any sort of money laundering and financial speculation, things of that nature will now come to now cease. All of the foolishness that was going on before. If they want to manipulate it, then they can go right ahead. But if they're not going to, because there's no real regulation, it self-regulates itself. That's what blockchain really does. So you don't really have to have some a person looking over their shoulder. Basically, what they call those guys, anti-fraud. The anti-fraud investigators. You don't have to have those guys looking over your shoulder. The blockchain pretty much solves all that within the stroke of a 0 or 1.
Yeah, it seems like though there's some people who are worried that these applications will be somehow corrupted, and these Wall Street guys will screw will start screwing stuff around.
I understand what you're saying, Lagon. If the block, couple, I think it was last week, we were talking about centralized blockchains
Yep.
where um, only the blockchain is in-house to IBM or CLS or Citibank or Block or what's the Barclays, but it's a centralized version of a blockchain, which me personally I think is oxymoron. But
Not
I,
necessarily.
really,
No, because now you have some kind of ownership and management of your because blockchain is a part of an infrastructure and it's an infrastructure within itself. So it while it could run autonomous and be decentralized, and there's decentralization of apps, there still has to be some form of owner to it. So if Barclays or IBM or any of the institutions want to enhance their infrastructure and add blockchain to it, then they would have to own it. So
uh,
that's where the centralization comes from the ownership, not really from the infrastructure itself.
I see what you're saying. You're saying let's say use two Citibank and Barclays, even though they have multiple locations in America or Europe, around the world, the blockchain, even though it's only central to them, that company and their infrastructure, it's still distributed over their number of buildings and locations around the world.
Right, right,
Well,
and it has to be some form of compatibility, right? So if I want to do business with Barclay and I'm an institution, I have to make sure that I'm compatible with Barclay
Now,
or any institution. So
yeah,
that means I have to adopt their framework too. So that's why there's such a rush to enhance, their versions of blockchain for their applications.
now, okay, I agree with you. Now, to Nagon, I understand what you're saying because if this blockchain is centralized, which I stand corrected, in their company, then all of their top financial agents or around their headquarters, satellites around the world can all agree. Okay, this this is how I'm thinking. Okay, yeah, put these numbers into this block, or we all agree to put this into this block to make it seem like they're cooking the books, or to make it seem like their books are level when they're really cooking the books and they're manipulating the blockchain. That's how I'm thinking about it.
yeah, that. See, and another thing too, I was just sitting here reading an article talking about a Wall Street vet warns of ICE bringing bad banking practices to crypto. So I'm looking, with the whole blockchain, crypto in itself, and it says here, Kate Long is a Wall Street professional with 22 years of experience, including running Morgan Stanley's pension solutions business. Recently, Long wrote in an article about the financialization of cryptocurrency by Wall Street entities, describing the new initiative by ICE, owner of the New York Stock Exchange, is to launch a new Bitcoin market called Backed as a double-edged sword. Long spoke with CNN on financialization in crypto, describing the two forms of financialization, one of which improves liquidity through new investors like institutional investors and beneficial to the space. Hang on one second. And then it said in the good context, liquidity is improving because its assets investors base is growing. New investors are coming in, especially new institutional investors. And we start talking about institutional investors, the big banks, the big insurance companies, the big funds, the big, all that kind of stuff. Cryptocurrency pundits have long been awaiting the arrival of institutional investors with deep pockets. We all know that when you start seeing that, it's going to be a change in the game. And this is going to be required to bolster, the market cap. And with custodianship and other traditional financial infrastructures being put in place, that seems to draw ever nearer. There is, however, a second type of financialization, and they're talking about this leverage financialization mirrors fractional reserve banking. So, and then, and if you guys don't understand fractional reserve, we'll get to that in a second. But leverage financialization also improves liquidity, but it also does so artificially. So really, what they're kind of looking like is you can artificially and inflate the market. It could be really overvalued to where things are. You have you have these basically air-filled cryptos coming in that could give you a wrong impression of actually what's going on. And next thing you know, you're in this up and down boom and bust bullshit. Okay, let's say the problem is that there is really no theoretical limit on how much paper Bitcoin can be created, and paper Bitcoin can offset Bitcoin's scarcity. Here, there it is. We've watched that happen in commodities markets, credit derivative markets, where paper versions of the assets can suppress the underlying asset's price by offsetting the real world scarcity of the assets, such as gold and silver and so forth. So the same things that are going to screw, that have, how would I say, classically screwed the market, they're looking to bring Bitcoin in and then apply some of the same bullshit. And this is what I'm really concerned about as far as the whole Bitcoin game and blockchain being co-opted by the Wall Street, sharks to play the same game there, which makes it really no different in some respects than what we've got going on now. And I ain't feeling it, bro. I'm not down with it.
We'll have to watch and see.
I'm not feeling this move they're making. That's why I really believe, in these separate crypto markets that might, that are independent of some of this shit. Minute Wall Street and the Wall Street players, especially when you start getting the institutional investors, or what we call in the investment market the fourth, the fourth market, the internet, the big boys, the big players. When they start coming in, they're going to take control of it. And what I believe blockchain and the whole crypto market really was designed for is going to be totally undermined by this.
Yeah. Well, we will keep an eye on that because it's obviously going to cross our crosshairs on.
But you understand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
You follow what?
I understand what you're saying because I've heard close sentiments with other crypto and blockchain pundits in the space. Every now and then I've heard it, but I've heard it.
Well, when you've got the big players, when you got some of the big players in here talking this this concerns me. This concerns me.
Yeah, we'll
It just brings some of my fears because as I was on Wall Street and I saw how the game was played immensely, and I'm looking at what's going on here, and it's like, shit. And we were talking about this before about the same Wall Street people now want to come in and control this, and you're going to run into the same stuff. So that's it. That's all I have to say on that so far. I don't know if you guys want to add anything else onto that.
Nah, I don't have anything. I agree with you, man. Yeah. All right. Let's get to our next article. Comes from Futurism.com. Title: Chinese citizens are using blockchain to warn each other of unsafe vaccines. This written by Christian Hauser, dated July 25th. Sharing information. China is in the midst of vaccine scandal. This weekend, news broke out that drug manufacturer Ching
Oh,
Chung.
you're borging pretty heavy.
Hello?
You're borging. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead.
You're perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Sharing information. China is in the midst of vaccine scandal. This weekend, news broke out that drug manufacturer Changxing Biotechnology was selling unsafe vaccines, causing an uproar amongst Chinese citizens, as we reported Tuesday. A blogger writing under the nom de plume Beast was one of the first to break the story. An investigative article they published on the topic went viral on the WeChat social network. Chinese internet monitors deleted the story within hours and quickly removed any reposts. However, Internet users figured out a way to share the story that will keep it permanently out of reach of these monitors by adding it to a blockchain off the chain, on the chain. Adding the article to a blockchain was actually pretty easy. A user simply sent themselves about 0.47 cent worth of the digital asset Ether and posted the full article in the transaction's metadata, a section reserved for notes or other information. Because the Ethereum blockchain is a public ledger, anyone can view this transaction and read the included article. The ledger is also decentralized, so there's no single authority Chinese officials could could pressure to remove the article. TechNode, a site focused on China's tech industry, was the first to catch this clever use of the blockchain. But it isn't the first time Chinese citizens have turned to blockchain to share content that Chinese internet monitors had removed. In April, a student published an open letter detailing the threats she received for attempting to obtain information from her university about a sexual assault case. After internet monitors removed the letter, students added it to the Ethereum blockchain where it remains. Two internets. The internet in China looks far different from that in the US and many other nations. According to several human rights organizations, the nation employs more than 40,000 internet monitors whose sole job is to ensure information the government doesn't want the public seeing stays off the internet. Chinese citizens can't use Google, Facebook, and a number of other sites many of us take for granted. They also can't access overseas Chinese news sites or use words the government doesn't approve of. For example, they can't post the word disagree on Weibo, a popular Chinese site that essentially that's essentially a Twitter Facebook hybrid. By using the blockchain in this way, Chinese citizens may have finally found a way to express themselves that's beyond the government's reach. All right, I this was clever. This was clever. Um, I mentioned before that this cryptocurrency isn't just a currency, a dumb currency like fiat. It's actual programmable money. And the article said someone's spent 47 cents in order to etch this article indefinitely because it's an immutable blockchain on the Ethereum's blockchain. So what I'm trying to say is you don't Ethereum. Let's take Ethereum. So since it's talking about Ethereum, is more than sending money from me to Mike or me to Nagon or Nagon to Mike or Mike to me and Nagon to me. I can spend some money to send Nagon a message, even though but Ethereum is not private, but I can send Nagon a message saying Nagon meet me on in uh, Brazil on 2019 February 26th, and I can send 50 cent send a message to Nagon by spending 50 cent of Ethereum. It's programmable money now. Granted, anybody can see it. I can still do that. And this is what they did. They took the article of this unsafe vaccine and sent uh, and put it on the Ethereum blockchain. And if you anybody that has the transaction ID of this article can go look on the Ethereum blockchain, Etherscan Delta. I think it's Etherscan Delta, and actually, I hope they would have put the transaction ID on here and look and read the article. That's all I got to say.
Well, hold on one second. The thing about this is that China is known for making I shouldn't say China, the nation, but people within China are known for making false goods. I bought a micro SD card from China about maybe a couple years ago. It was a 256 gig micro SD card. This was unknown back then that that capacity of a micro SD card was available. But like that at the time, if you wanted to really buy something like that in the United States, that would have been like $300, $400. So I bought it, and when I plugged it into my phone, it did say 256 gigs. However, after 2 weeks or so, the card failed. It didn't have any space on it. It was a fraudulent card. It said SanDisk or something like that on it, but it really wasn't a SanDisk card. It was actually a knockoff. So I wasted my money, on something like that. And when you have vaccines that can be used, because China has a huge HIV problem themselves, as well as influenza and other common illnesses that was popular in the United States, maybe 20, 30 years ago. They still now, but when you have vaccines that are being made up out of water and maybe some salt or something like that, and you're pumping that into people's veins, talking about that's an anti-flu or it's a flu vaccine, that becomes very sketchy.
Yeah, yeah. Thoughts on this, Nagone?
No, I haven't. I was just kind of listening on that. So, not really. It doesn't surprise me that would happen. But what I'm a little bit surprised about is I didn't know that China had a very large HIV problem. I wasn't very aware of that.
Now, what I am thinking about, not necessarily dealing with China, but the blockchain and the use cases of blockchain is, say, like you just said, Mike, SanDisk SD card, and it wasn't as. So let's say somebody do that in.
I know you there. Nicole?
Hello, hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. I'm just thinking in the age of blockchain. Hey, I bought this from this card from this shop, but it wasn't as advertised. Okay, I'll teach you. I'll just spend X amount of money to etch this um, bad review on the blockchain, and people can see it. And again, I'm just thinking out loud of the use cases of blockchain. That's all. That's all.
Well, you would because you're a student of the profession. So
Yeah, I like that. Student of the profession. I like that. Um, eyes itching. Anything? Any other points
no.
about? All right. Let's get on to our next article. This is this comes from motherboard.device.com. Cryptocurrency miners are building their own electricity infrastructure. Canadian company DMG Blockchain is expanding its mining operation in British Columbia with its own electrical substation. All right. Article. Access to cheap electricity can make or break a cryptocurrency mining operation, and firms angling to strike it rich in an industry where delays can and will cost digital money, do just about anything to get it as soon as they can. The latest movement in the quest for bargain basement kilowatt hours, all as quickly as possible, building out local power grids with bespoke electrical substations. Canadian company DMG Blockchain is building what it hopes will be a fully functional substation near the southern British Columbia town of Castlegar, which is electrified by hydropower. When I spoke to Stephen Elescu, who leads corporate development for DMG, over the phone, he told me that building the substation cost millions of dollars and required the company to build its own access road to haul equipment to the site. The goal to plug it into the local grid and have it power DMG's expanding mining operations by September. At the end of August, we'll go through a commissioning process where the utility will test everything as completed substation and make sure that the town doesn't blow up when we flip the switch. Alesco told Alesco told me over the phone. Excuse me. Industrial cryptocurrency mining is the largest automated process or even thousands of computers to guess numbers all day long in the hopes of finding a value that solves a block of transaction data, adding it to the blockchain, a distributed ledger that keeps track of everyone's digital coins. Miners receive a reward in the form of new cryptocurrency and users' fees, making it potentially lucrative if you can find electricity cheap enough to make a profit, usually far below the rates of residents pay. There's a global rush to find cheap power and set up shop as soon as possible. In hydroelectric rich Quebec, for example, so many miners have lined up to open mining operations that the provincial power utility put on a moratorium on new applications and asked the energy board for guidance on how to proceed. Alescu said that the company is working closely with the local utility and has written approval for the project. When I reached out to the local utility in Castlegar, Fortis, BC, spokespeople declined to discuss specifics of the DMG project since, since it does not discuss customer or potential customer information without their consent, but noted that in projects of this nature, the company in question and Fortis BC signed a facilities interconnection agreement. The substation must also be approved by a professional engineer licensed by the province. Fortis BC has been approached by companies mining cryptocurrency over the last few years. Fortis BC spokespeople wrote in an email, these operations typically have significant electricity needs due to the amount of computer hardware employed. As a public utility operating in BC under the Utilities Commission Act, we have an obligation to serve customers in our service area, subject to certain conditions and restrictions, including crypto mining operations. The utility declined to discuss the price point for DMG's power, citing that it wanted to protect the privacy of customers or potential customers. Alescu also declined to go into detail about how DMG expects to pay for power once the substation is operational, citing concerns over competition. We set up an agreement that for someone else to jump in, we're kind of like first in line, Alescu told me. I don't want to say that we have a formal right of first refusal in case someone big did come in, but that's why we're very sensitive talking about our power acquisition strategy. There might be a rush if people better understood what we're doing. DMG has experience in this arena. Both Alescu and COO Sheldon Bennett previously worked on mining firm Bitfury, which opened mining operations in Alberta that were later acquired in a reverse takeover by Vancouver firm Hut 8, which expanded the mining operation and began trading on the TSX Venture Exchange this year. Data centers purchasing their own power substations as opposed to getting one from the utility isn't unheard of. Switzerland based multinational ABB, for example, sells the equipment and has marketed it to data centers. For DMG blockchain, building its own substation is all about speed. Going through the normal process of contracts and approvals to get access to a substation from the utility could take over a year, Alescu said, whereas DMG is bootstrapping its substation in the space of 6 months. If you just leave things up to the utility, things will just naturally take a long time, Alescu said. This isn't to beat on utilities. This is just how they are and how they've always operated. They're not used to working at Bitcoin speed.
I know. Go.
Yeah, I'm here. Look like he dropped off. Is he still there?
Yeah, I don't. I'm not sure. It doesn't say that he left.
Yeah, I was just on mute.
A bullet probably went through his modem or something like that in Chicago.
Where's Lionel in Chicago?
Yeah.
Where's everybody else?
The chat. I mean, the hangout is still going, but he's not there now for some reason.
Wow. Is he on mute? Did he mute himself?
No, it doesn't look like it. It doesn't say that he did.
Damn. I don't know.
Give him 30 seconds. Oh.
Is he back? Or he went off? He's probably going to come back on. He just must have dropped.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's his internet or if it's Google kicking him off.
What the hell? Wow. What was the next subject?
We were talking about power grids.
And blockchain, and how blockchain was run that as well?
No, we were talking about there's a crypto mining company that wanted to create their own power grid instead of using the typical utility company. And that this has become a popular and creative way of getting cheap electricity because it
I can't believe oh my God. I can't believe that. I was godly, man.
What happened, bro?
I thought a bullet went through your modem or something like that.
No, I was at it, man. I was talking, I was explaining why these companies are doing this, why they going to Canada and doing this. And I look up, ain't none of what's recorded. Golly, man.
Well, yeah, because you had disappeared. But anyway, pick up where you left off.
I don't know if you all heard the entire article or not. So
we heard the article, but when you started talking, that's what. I mean,
Oh,
your commentary came in. That's where it disappeared.
Oh, let me go to. I was saying the reason why these companies are going to areas that provide low electricity is because on the Bitcoin is proof of work, which means the proof of work means it's directly tied to your computer computational power. So your vote, that's your vote to agree, okay, we're going to add this block to the Bitcoin blockchain, or okay, I win the right to add this block to the Bitcoin blockchain. And for you winning that, you are rewarded Bitcoin. So if you have higher computer computational power, high computer power, then your vote is stronger. Hence, these big companies using lots of GPUs, lots of CPUs to uh, make their vote stronger, because your vote is literally, when I say literal, I mean literally in all sense of the word, tied to your computer power. So you have these big companies. It mentioned Bitfury. You also have Bitmain, and then you have this DMG. It's not a comprehensive list, but those are just three companies I named, that they're going to areas in the world that they can use to offset that high electricity bill. Case in point, in Canada, where they're going provides hydroelectric energy. You have other companies, I think, such as Bitmain, that's in Greenland. I think it's Greenland that has thermal electricity. Uh, and you have other companies that may go to areas where you have a lot of sun, where you can use solar energy. But that's why these companies are doing this. So, is that it?
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well.
Whew. All right. Let's get to our next article. This one comes from Bitcoinist.com. Title: Camino brings plug-and-play simplicity to cryptocurrency mining. And this is an interview. All right. As interest in cryptocurrencies continue to grow, so does interest in cryptocurrency mining. Unfortunately, there can be a significant learning curve involved. Camino aims to change that with their line of completely reassembled devices that work with plug-and-play simplicity. Bitcoiners recently sat down with Camino co-founder and CEO Evgeny Vlasov to learn more about these game-changing devices. Bitcoiners, first and foremost, what are your miners? What sets your miners apart from the competition? EV. First of all, we assembled the complete product and offer it as a plug-in and play device.
I
No
know
one.
your screen is not being shared.
Okay, my bad. All right, I thought I shared. Okay. EV. No. Okay. First of all, we assembled the complete product and offer it as a plug-and-play device. No one, excuse me, no one on this market does complete devices with GPU cards inside. A couple of our competitors try to produce such devices, but they are really noisy and dusty. They can't realistically be placed in a room at home, but our miners are absolutely adapted for home use. For example, it can be placed near your bed and it will be working noiselessly and dust free. In the winter, it can be used as a heater as well. Okay. Our products are completely plug and play. You can just push one button and everything works. It mines cryptocurrency in your account to your account. Our company creates everything for your wallets and infrastructure. Even if you know next to nothing about cryptocurrencies, everything will be working. Our main goal is to produce devices with high quality components. So we produce and assemble the devices. We develop software for these devices. And of course, we provide a 1 year warranty. Hey, Nagon, can you mute yourself real quick?
I'm sorry, man. I apologize.
No problem, no problem. In this market of miners with GPU cards, no one else provides such a warranty. Bitcoiners. Right now, your miners specialize in mining Ethereum and Zcash, and only Ethereum and Zcash. Why is that? And do you have plans to release miners for other cryptocurrencies in the future? EV. We made the decision to implement Ethereum and Zcash because these cryptocurrencies are the easiest and most profitable coins to mine with GPU cards. If you would like to get another cryptocurrency, you can just mine Ethereum and then exchange it to another currency. Nowadays, there are many other coins, but they are not profitable enough, so there is no reason to implement them. In the future, however, if we decide to implement another coin, that won't be a problem. Right now, for example, we are experimenting with other coins, but we don't currently provide the ability to switch to other coins to our clients. Bitcoiners, you manufacture many of your parts yourself. What benefits does this provide to the quality of the miner? EV, yes, we manufacture almost all of the parts ourselves. Only the GPU cards and motherboards are provided by the vendors, but we plan to customize them as well, and we have already started production of customized GPU cards and motherboards. Why do we do this? Because we investigated the market. Because we investigated the market, found that most components, even something as simple as wires, aren't produced to given standards. For example, in China, they are producing they are they are produced using low quality components. They don't meet the standards at all. From the very beginning, we wanted to create a top quality device that would keep working for a long time. Wires, connectors, capacitors, risers, power supplies, and everything else should be of top quality. Our components allow us to produce a device that will keep working for years without any problems. Other devices on the market that we investigated typically aren't able to serve you for even a year. Bitcoiners. Liquid cooling is very much Camino's thing. Why are liquid cooling solutions superior to other methods of cooling? EV. Liquid cooling is extremely effective for keeping chips cool. This is no secret that the temperature is one of the main problems plaguing miners and actually the whole IT infrastructure. If you use chips all day long, even overclock 20% on top, it loads hundreds of percents each second and produces a lot of heat. And it should effectively take this heating away from chips to make them work for a long period of time. Only liquid can solve this problem. Of course, air cooling is cheaper, but it is not effective. If you use components just for gaming, it requires loading 100% for a short period of time. That is why it is appropriate to use air cooling inside desktops and on common GPU cards. We use liquid cooling because we need to create fully effective cooling for chips to make them work for a long period of time. Besides, it is noiseless, there is no dust on the cards, so the cost of manufacturing will be less than for cooling as well. It's a bit long for every people listening in on the playback. Um, to summarize what they're saying, because the rest of the article is talking about specifically their components and why they're doing this. But the point of the article, and go back to the top of the article, the point of the article is they're bringing plug and play simplicity to crypto mining. So in our last article, and this is their machine right here with this cat is standing on. In our last article, we had DMG going to other parts of the country to mine because of the better deal on electricity. They have a lot of they in their system they what they done is by motherboards, by GPUs, CPUs, and so forth. What GPUs and what they did was download software to start mining, but they bought these pieces separately. They bought the motherboard separately, the GPU separately, and anything else they needed, any hardware separately. What this Camino company is doing, they're including everything in one. So it's one system, one thing where you can plug in and you can mine yourself at home. What I foresee this is any in the beginning of cryptocurrency, anybody was mining on your home computer. You can mine, but it got to a point where everything started to become harder. So your home computer could not do the mining. It didn't have the computational hardware to do it. Am I still on? Hope I'm still on.
Yeah, you still on.
Okay. What I foresee with this is it's going to make the mining centralized again. Because right now the mining has become very much no, it's going to make the mining decentralized because right now the mining has become centralized with a lot of big companies doing the mining, hence going to other places to for reduced electricity with their big companies. What they're doing is they're decentralizing the mining again, and you can go ahead and mine Ethereum, Zcash. Obviously, you know, I'm going to guess here that they're going to have different levels of this type of plug and play machine because as time goes on, the mining going to become harder. But this is a good idea. I like this. If it's profitable, I would do it.
Well, it's a turnkey solution. So they're basically taking advantage of the market or the lack of competition
Mhm.
for what it stands for in the market. And although they have the head start, this is they know that there's going to be a future with cryptocurrency cryptocurrencies, so there's going to be a need for crypto mining rigs, so to speak. I mean, you can go to Newegg.com or go to Best Buy and buy some of the components and just kind of jam them up to your, jam them up from a standard perspective. Just plug and play and add air, air cooling. But one, computers get very, very hot at 100% load. I don't care, what kind of computer it is. Even phones, right? If you load up an application on your phone, it can get really, really hot, and it can even explode in your pocket, which is why they kind of, they kind of don't want you putting in your pocket for too long. The same thing is going to happen with these mining rigs, and now you're seeing them use water. I've seen some rigs in the past use cryogenic cooling. So
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
mineral oil. People dipping their computers inside mineral oil in order to get them to go, because mineral oil is like the final solution for cooling.
hmm I've seen that. I've seen people just build computer rigs, and the whole rig is submerged in mineral oil.
Hmm.
So the mineral oil keeps it at a constant temperature.
Right.
Yeah, it keeps the temperature from rising on it. It stabilizes the temperature.
Okay, so, and correct me if I'm wrong, potentially someone can take this rig or build a rig that obviously undoubtedly will get hot, but as you said, mineral oil is the final solution. They can build out or scale their mining uh, 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 rig. I don't want to say rig, but their the mining infrastructure, and it can be constantly cooled with mineral oil.
You could, but with the problem is that becomes messy. That's
Mm,
Yeah,
it's okay if it's just one, but if you start using like a whole data center with mineral oil, that becomes very messy. Some of the stuff I've seen IBM use in their new Watson rigs and whatnot is pretty slick stuff. And water is really quiet too. The only thing you hear is like the pumping the water around throughout the tubing, throughout the plumbing. But outside of that, you're not hearing any loud fans wind up. You don't have to um, you don't have to worry too much about dust caking up on the air cooling portion and having to go in there and clean it out. It's a pretty simplified way of keeping your system cool, depending on what kind of coolants you're using in it. One of the computers I'm working on right now, that I'm building right now, is actually going to be water cooled. So
it's going to be water cooled, huh? Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
oh man, this
Water is very efficient.
yeah, it's about to turn into a computer building show. But I
Nicole, you
agree.
had something to say?
Oh yeah, go ahead, go on. Butterley, you there?
Was there anything else?
No, we were asking, did you have anything else?
No, nope, not at all.
Can move on to the next article.
Hmm All right. Our next article, we about to get into some space. We're going about to go reach the stratosphere. Okay, our next article comes from spacenews.com. Alaska launch shrouded in secrecy, written by Jeff Faust, dated July 27th. Article: Washington. A secretive California company carried out a suborbital launch from an Alaska spaceport July 20. But a week after the event, few details about the event are clear, including its outcome. Astrospace carried out a launch at 6 p.m. Eastern, July 20, of its Rocket 1 vehicle from Pacific Spaceport Complex, Alaska, on Kodak Island, Alaska. Foggy conditions made it difficult to observe the launch, according to one local reporter covering the event. Astrospace received a license from the Federal Aviation Administration's Office of Commercial Space Transportation, or AST, in March for a suborbital test flight of its vehicle. According to the license, the launch would carry an inert upper stage on will carry an inner upper stage on a trajectory traveling to the south. The FAA also issued a notice to airmen restricting airspace in the vicinity of the launch site from July 14 to the 21st due to rocket launch. The launch, though, does not appear in the list of licensed launches maintained by AST on its website, even though the list includes launches, but both orbital and suborbital, that took place since the Astrospace event. In a statement provided by the FAA July 24th, in response to a Space News inquiry, it confirmed that the launch took place, but that a mishap of some kind occurred. The Astrospace Incorporation launched from the Pacific Spaceport Complex, Alaska at Kodak Island on Friday, July 20th, experienced a mishap, the FAA stated. It was an FAA licensed launch, and the agency is reviewing the event. Pacific Spaceport Complex, Alaska, formerly known as the Kodak Launch Complex, is operated by Alaska Aerospace Corporation. Craig Campbell, President and Chief Executive of Alaska Aerospace, told Space News July 27th that a non-disclosure agreement with the customer limited with what he could discuss. Our customer has requested we not discuss their operations with the press, he said. I can confirm that a launch from the Pacific Spaceport Complex, Alaska, occurred on Friday, July 20th, and that the customer is very pleased with the outcome of the launch. Campbell made no mention of a mishap or other incident taking place during the launch. While a post-launch team is reviewing the results of the launch, I can state that there was no material damage to our facilities as a result of this launch, he said. We look forward to working with this customer to support their next launch from Alaska. Astra Space is one of a growing number of companies developing small launch vehicles for dedicated launches of small satellites, but but has kept a very low profile, lacking even a, pub, a publicly accessible website. The company is based in Alameda, California, where it leases a building from the city in an area that formerly hosted a naval air station. In its lease documents, it described efforts to develop next generation launch services, starting with a rocket called Astra capable of placing 100 kilograms into low Earth orbit. Astrospace is not the only small launch vehicle company interested in launching from Pacific Spaceport Complex, Alaska. Prior to this launch, Vector was at the spaceport performing operations tests ahead of the first launch of its Vector R rocket from the site, planned for later this year. Rocket Lab has also shown interest in the spaceport, identifying it as one of four finalists for a second launch complex. The company plans to announce the location of that complex in August. All right. Upon reading this, I automatically think back to our conversations where space travel for anyone is cheaper nowadays, and this is just a location of multiple locations where a group of people, a private company, a public company, can go to, a group of individuals can go to launch their space vehicle, spaceship, or spacecraft into space. A dedicated facility or a company like this that you can pay, and obviously after they go over your craft, they can help you launch your craft into space. That's what I think about this article.
Wow. So, so this AST, this is a Alaska-based company.
I believe so. Yeah, and Kodak says, go back to the article, it says they're based out of Island, Alaska.
Out of Kodak, Alaska. Wow. I mean, to kind of blast a rocket from that area, also, you're not getting the, a lot of the, that the centrifugal force that you might get, say, from blasting off from Florida. So it would seem to me, I don't know if that would have an effect on it. You would want to be in a place where you could get the best results for launching, but I don't know. Hard to say about it, but it's very interesting. That these private companies right now are blasting rockets off and putting stuff out in the space. So
Yeah, we mentioned on this channel a few times, more to name, that within the next few years, 1 in 3 companies that new companies created will be spacefaring companies. Will be companies that will be going have something to do with space and space exploration. So it's getting started.
Yep. That's the wave. That's the wave. So it's definitely encouraging to see that. What I would be quite interested in finding out was, what's the cost of a launch like that to launch a payload into space?
I think we mentioned on one occasion, it was around 88 million, around that
88 million?
Yeah.
Wow.
It depends on who it is. I think, and it depends on the payload. I think the cheapest is something like $1 million or something like that. It depends on what the payload is, though, because you have micro satellites, and then you're talking about putting humans in space. I think it's the human aspect is the most expensive, because you're dealing with insurances and things of that nature. What happens if I mean, you can replace a satellite, you can't replace a human, though. So I think that's where the cost comes in.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I'd be interested in definitely seeing that. But I guess putting satellites in space. What was their payload? What were they putting in? What were they putting out there?
I don't think the article said.
Yeah, I don't think.
It says it's a secret. So
yeah, I was just about it was a secret. They just know something launched. They don't know specifically what, who launched it, what was the company. It was just shrouded in secrecy.
Okay, so it must have been a government contracting company or something. Anyway, but yeah, interesting.
Very. All right. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just going to say that there's going to be multiple ways to deploy satellites and LEOs, low Earth orbiting atmosphere, as well as high Earth orbiting atmosphere as well. So anything outside of the LEO would require more. I'm hearing some feedback from the gong.
Yeah, I mean, I'm listening. You want me to turn on? You want me to go? You want me to mute? All right.
No, I was just going to say that there's going to be multiple ways to launch devices into space now, and the cheapest way that is possible is using weather balloons, as well as the balloon that we saw with Red Bull. When they dropped Felix out of the space capsule.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's get on to our next article here.
All right.
Yes, indeed. Our next article comes from NBCnews.com. Title: Virgin Galactic spaceplane smashes altitude. Oh my God! Smashes altitude record in latest test flight. Sleek aircraft climbs to 32 miles over California's Mojave Desert. Written by David Friedman, July 26. Article: Virgin Galactic completed the third rocket-powered test flight of its VSS Unity spaceplane over California's Mojave Desert on Thursday, bringing billionaire Richard Branson's space tourism company a step closer to taking its first customer into space. After being released from under the wing of its carrier plane at 46,500 feet, VSS Unity fired its rocket motor for 42 seconds to propel itself and its two pilots to a speed of Mach 2.47, or almost 2.5 times the speed of light. Virgin Galactic said, "I
No, the
said,
speed of sound, not the speed of light.
oh, speed of sound. Oh, I say speed of sound.
Yeah, speed
Virgin.
of light. They're
Good
moving
one.
mighty fast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good catch. Good catch. Virgin Galactic said in a blog post, the sleek aircraft reached an altitude of 170,800 feet, or 32.3 miles, more than halfway to the Kármán line that marks the boundary between the upper atmosphere and outer space, before descending
So,
and
so, so they must have saw some black sky. They must have been looking at black sky, right?
I would guess so. If this is the video of it, I would guess so.
Uh,
Let me check. Before descending and landing safely at the Mojave Air and Spaceport, VSS Unity went higher and faster than it did during its second such test flight on May 29th, when it reached a speed of Mach 1.9 and rose to an altitude of 114,500 feet. This was a new altitude record for both of us in the cockpit, not to mention our mannequin in the back, and the views of Earth from the black sky were magnificent. That answers your questions.
yeah, it had to
Um,
be seen black sky. Yeah.
Virgin Galactic's chief pilot Dave Mackey said in the post, the craft's first test flight came on April 5th, 4 years after the October 34th, 2014 crash of another Virgin Galactic space plane, which claimed the life of test pilot Michael Ellsbury. The new test was designed in part to gain a better understanding of the environment inside the passenger cabin, measuring temperatures, acceleration, vibration, and other factors, according to the Post. Although with Elon Musk's SpaceX and Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic is one of a handful of companies that intend to take space tourism tourists up on brief suborbital flights. The company hasn't indicated exactly when it will start commercial flights, although Branson has said that could come early sometime this year. Wow. About 800 people have bought a ticket for a Virgin Galactic flight, Branson told Bloomberg in a recent interview. Want to buy one? They go for $250,000. Mm, let me see. Yeah, they definitely saw black some black sky.
Yeah, there was some black sky up in there, man. That's no joke. You're up there pretty damn high. You know, and and I'm sure you have to have some level of an oxygen suit on and all that other kind of stuff.
Say again?
I'm sure you have to have a bit of an oxygen suit on and stuff as well because there's no
Oh
atmosphere.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems pretty serious business. Yep.
Any other points on this one?
Nah, man. I'm pretty straight on that. Mike?
I'm good.
All right.
Uh,
All right. Let's get to our next article here. One moment. Okay. Talking about Mars here. This one is from Ars Technica. Title: Possible lake spotted under a polar ice cap on Mars. Radar indicates that Mars may have analogs of Earth's subglacial lakes. Written by John Timmer, dated July 25th. Article: Today, a team of Italian scientists announced evidence that Mars has lakes of liquid water under its polar ice caps. While the evidence is a bit indirect and requires a number of assumptions, the alternatives that the researchers have considered fit the data worse. The announcement is likely to get scientists thinking about how to use existing instruments orbiting Mars to give this region a more careful examination. Under the pose, most parts of Mars spend much of the time at temperatures too low to support liquid water at the surface. Adding salt, and we found lots of evidence of salt on Mars, can lower the freezing point of water by turning it into a brine. But that's not enough to overcome the extremely low temperatures of the Martian atmosphere, which would cause any ice to to sub sublimate off into vapor instead of melting. So the only realistic hope or significant amounts of liquid water is under the surface at sufficient depth to create enough pressure to allow salt to overcome the low temperatures. Calculations have suggested that these conditions may be met at the Martian poles, where large ice caps composed of both water and frozen carbon dioxide exists. There are obvious parallels to Antarctica, where lakes have been discovered beneath glaciers in several areas of the otherwise frozen continent. But so far, no clear evidence of liquid water has turned up. But the new evidence gives some strong hints that it might be there. The data comes from the ESA's Mars Express orbiter, which carries a good penetrating radar instrument called MARSIS. Subsurface imaging relies on the fact that borders between materials. Subsurface imaging relies on the fact that borders between materials with different properties will bounce back a portion of the incoming radar signal. So while a layer of ice and a layer of rock may both be weakly reflective, the boundary that occurs when ice sits on top of rock will create a strong reflection that can be detected by an orbiting radar. The interface between ice and water acts similarly, producing a brighter reflection. MARSIS now has generated roughly 13 years of data, including multiple passes over the polar regions. Analysis of that data has already identified a highly reflective region beneath the thickest part of the southern ice cap in an area called the Planum Australe. But that feature has been ascribed to a boundary between the dust containing ice that dominates Mars' surface and a layer of pure water ice that is expected to exist below that. For this study, the Italian researchers revisited the assumption and attempted to determine if pure water ice was consistent with the radar data. Opening windows. For their study, they would ideally use the radar signal to measure the material properties of the layer, which would determine how well radar signals could travel through it. The process requires a detailed understanding of the radar signals that were transmitted downward toward Mars by Mars Express. And unfortunately, we don't have that understanding. The instrument was simply too large to open it up and calibrate it on the ground before Mars Express was launched. So the researchers did a rough calibration of registering the signal that bounced back when the radar hit the atmosphere dusty ice boundary at the Martian surface, since the composition of these materials is pretty well understood. Combined and calculated temperatures at different depths. That calibration allowed the researchers to calculate a value of the reflections occurring at deeper levels. While while there are significant uncertainties associated, excuse me, apologize about that. While there are different, while there are significant uncertainties associated with these values, they were used to estimate a window in which the actual value probably resided. Conveniently, the full range of these windows was above that of any material previously seen on Mars. In other words, even the lowest likely value was about above the highest value we've observed previously. And similar values on Earth are typically only generated by materials that are wet or liquid. In the Antarctic, all similar values have been associated with liquid water. And if you try the same technique on areas outside the highly reflective ones, it produces values that are similar to those of dry volcanic rock on Earth, lake or pancake. There are other possible explanations for this sort of signal, but the authors consider and reject them. To give one example, They consider a layer of carbon dioxide that was liquefied by the pressure. While this layer could form under the conditions present at the base of the ice cap, its properties are such that you wouldn't get such a strong reflection. Other conditions they consider will produce similar reflections, but are unlikely to be found under a 1.5 kilometer thick sheet of ice. It's tempting to think of this feature as a lake, given that the area with high reflectivity is several kilometers in diameter. But the radar reflections could be produced by a layer of water less than a meter thick. So it could be just a thin layer of liquid lining the base of the ice sheet. And again, the liquid involved would be far saltier than Earth's oceans, and the salts are likely um, petrolates, which aren't as common on Earth. Before we get too excited about drilling 1.5 kilometers into the poles of Mars to look for ice, however, we'll probably want independent confirmation that this high reflectivity region shows up consistently and behaves as if it's liquid water. Conveniently, there's another radar instrument called SHARAD orbiting the red planet on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. SHARAD operates at different frequencies than Mars's does, but it's also designed to pick up subsurface features. Obviously, if the results hold up, they will have a big impact on how we think about prospects of life existing on Mars. While a frozen, salty, high pressure environment with no obvious energy input isn't a great place for life to have arisen, it's possible that a previously formed ecosystem could scrap by using some chemical energy scavenged from the underlying rock. We have examples of that process on Earth. All right, I need a little breakdown on this article from anyone.
Pretty heavy duty stuff. We've been doing a lot of explorations in Mars, on Mars, looking at it from viewing it to hitting the surface for years now. So we've we've only really kind of scratched the surface. I think there's a lot to really look at, even going further up on the caps, seeing where there might be a lot more liquid water. There's definitely evidence that water was there, certainly flowing freely, millions of years ago, it seems. Um, so, only thing I can say is just going through what you read in that article and looking at all that might be through there. It's just, I don't know, man. That's just it's a wide open spot. You don't know what you might find up there, man. If we really go, if we really, get to really exploring that planet at some greater distances than where we are from where we're landing. I don't know if we had any better, um, uh, let's say, vehicles to really travel that surface and really cover a lot of ground. But it could be mind-boggling what we could find there.
Yeah, they're gonna need some excavation equipment at some point to start digging in and really figuring
Yeah,
out how far down does this really go. And I guess they're trying to preserve, the planet, from a forensic standpoint, without actually um, disturbing any of the elements that were already there prior to their arrival. Um, which makes sense, but at the same time, that satellite penetrating this probe through the planet to for a hypothetical that there's something there. You need a little bit something more tangible, and you're gonna have to start excavating at some point. So
well, yeah. I mean, we know here on Earth, that there's definitely underground aquifers and so forth that that run
exactly.
freely, but they're miles down. So that's that could easily be the case on Mars, easily. I'm not to say that there's life there, but it seemed as though that there was a great degree of water on that planet. It seemed like to me in the solar system, um, whatever happened to Mars or whatever happened to Venus looked like at one point in time, there might have been three planets that might have had oceans, maybe at the self same time, and maybe Earth was maybe we had some protective aspect here on this planet that kept us in a more stable environment. It looks like Venus burned up, and Mars just kind of dried out and got cold. But it looks like these planets, there's evidence that they had oceans. So we certainly see that that could be the fact still on Mars. And if there was a great degree of water, not all that water is gone. So some of it, I'm sure, has gone underground. And that's why we talk about excavations and so forth. That could be very key. I mean, we're looking at other moons like Io and what's the other moon of Jupiter? Europa. Europa, and it seems that they may have literally liquid oceans underneath the ice that could go down for maybe 200 miles, as opposed to where we have our oceans may go down to the deepest of 30, maybe 30 miles, but down by the Marianas Trench. But it looks like these oceans might even be deeper, 200 miles and so forth. Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. So who knows? And Mars is enigmatic. So I have, what could be there could be very mind-boggling. Could be very mind-boggling. I know we talk about life. All throughout the that life may exist in some far distant place. Tucker may be a lot closer than we know. So I don't know. Mars definitely worthwhile excavating that planet if we were able to get there with big equipment and even put some men there at some point in time. That would be real interesting. That'd be really interesting. Dangerous, but interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they have some form of gas sitting under the surface.
Yeah.
Which similar to how we have fracking, used to tap gas underground. I wouldn't be surprised if they have that on Mars. So I mean, it sounds like it was a fully functional planet long before the Earth was. So
yeah. This just looks like Earth may have Earth. Earth looked like it survived. It seems like with some of the key differences, it looks like where the Earth has a very strong magnetic field, it seems like Mars's magnetic field seems to be non-existent. So that might have an effect. That might be affecting the planet as well. Maybe the magnetic field for Mars somehow that died or something. We don't know.
You usually get a magnetic field though from having a moon, right? Because you need a moon
not
to
necessarily.
balance.
No. What causes the moons to flow around Mars are its mass and its gravitational pull, or let's say the warping of, let's say, from an Einsteinian principle, the warping of space time that would make these moons circle around it because of its mass. Its mass would be playing that so much. It wouldn't be so much anything that would be magnetic, electromagnetic, even though that gravity from the Newtonian side, how it operates looks very much like magnetism. It seems to look like it, but gravitation is different. It doesn't have charge. Charge is not a part of the process. Electrical charge is positive and negative, where that's very key in magnetism. That's not the same in gravity, though the equations look very similar. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Any other points on that one?
No.
All right. Let's get to our next article. This one is from space.com. Star zooms past monster black hole confirms relativity, by Chelsea God. Hello? Hello? Can you all hear me?
No, you went out.
Okay. Am I clear now?
Yeah, just start it from the beginning again, I think.
Oh, okay. Title: Star Zooms Past Monster Black Hole Confirms Relativity by Chelsea God, July 26th. Article. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, man. Gotcha.
Okay, cool. For the first time ever, researchers have watched a star race past the supermassive black hole at the heart of the Milky Way, verifying that. Say again.
No, go ahead, man. Go ahead. I'm
Oh,
listening. Go ahead.
verifying that its motion showed the effects of general relativity as predicted by Albert Einstein. The stars of the Milky Way orbit a the stars of the Milky Way orbit a gargantuan black hole called Sagittarius A, which is generally quiet as viewed from Earth, except for ripping apart the occasional object that ventures too close. The black hole's mass is 4 million times that of the Sun, and it exhibits our galaxy's strongest gravitational field, making it a small group of stars orbiting it at a small group of stars orbiting it at high speed, a perfect proving ground for the extreme effects predicted by Einstein's theory of general relativity. For 26 years, researchers have been observing the center of the Milky Way using instruments from the European Southern Observatory, or ESO, the galactic center of our laboratory to test gravity. Odell Straub, an astrophysicist at the Paris Observatory and co-author of the new study, said at an ESO news conference July 26. Astronomers have used new infrared observations from the Gravity, Symphony, and NACO instruments on ESO's Very Large Telescope in Chile to follow a star known as S2, which is part of a group of fast-moving stars orbiting the supermassive black hole located 26,000 light years from Earth. In May 2018, these astronomers witnessed S2 pass very close to this black hole. At the time, S2 was moving extremely fast, 15.5 million miles per hour, 25 million kilometers an hour. By comparing position and velocity measurements taken by gravity and symphony and previous measurements taken of S2, the team found that the warp light from the start was consistent and predictions based on general relativity's description of how gravity bends space-time. The measurements of S2 clearly show an effect known as redshift, ESO officials said in a statement. Redshift tells us how gravity affects photons and they travel through the universe as they travel through the universe. Andrea Mia-Gies, an astronomer and professor in the Department of Physics and Astronomy at the University of California, Los Angeles, who was not involved in this research, told Space.com. The supermassive black hole gravitational field stretched the light leaving S2, and the change in the wavelength of light from S2 aligns with what is predicted by Einstein's theory, according to the statement. The new measurements and results don't agree with what would be predicted by the simpler Newtonian theory of gravity, the researchers said at the news conference. Frank Eisenhower, senior staff scientist at the Max Planck Institute for Extraterrestrial Physics and principal investigator for gravity and the Symphony spectrograph, showed a vivid graph highlighting the divergence at the ESO news conference. Reading Einstein 1, Newton 0, electing cheers from the audience. This is the first time such a such a oh my God, such a deviation from the Newtonian theory of gravity has been observed in a star around a supermassive black hole. The researchers said in the statement, although it was the second time they observed S2 around the black hole, they've been tracking the system for more than 2 decades.
Hold on a
Last,
second. Hold on a second. I want to ask something. They're saying that Newtonian physics was holding up underneath the scrutiny. What did they say about Newtonian physics?
this is the first. I'll read that again.
Yeah.
This is the first time such a deviation from the Newtonian theory of gravity has
Okay,
been
a deviation from it. Okay.
has been observed in a star around a supermassive black hole. The researchers said in the statement, although it was the second time they observed S2 around the black hole, they've been tracking the system for more than 2 decades. Last time it passed by, 16 years ago, the measurement's resolution wasn't good enough to pick up relativity's effect. As human beings on Earth, we fall, we drop things, and we don't float off of the planet into space. From an everyday perspective, we understand gravity quite well. However, of the different laws of physics, gravity is the least tested. Although it's the one we understand from a human existence the best, he said. This new research helps to solidify our understanding of gravity on a larger scale. Getting this law right is super important, Gee said. Even if you don't have it right or you work with an incorrect understanding of gravity, even on a small scale, those mistakes may have accumulated on a larger scale, she added. This work shows how gravity acts near a supermassive black hole, thus improving scientists' understanding of the force and its effects on researchers. And its effects, the researchers said. Here in the solar system, we can only test the laws of physics now and under certain circumstances. Francois Delplanque, head of the System Engineering Department at ESO and co-author of the new study, said in the statement. So it's very important in astronomy to also check that those laws are still valid where the gravitational fields are very much stronger. Astronomers will continue to observe and study S2 and hope to soon show general relativity's effect on a small rotation of the star's orbit as it travels away from the supermassive black hole, the researchers said. The results of the new research were published online today, July 26th, in the journal Astronomy and Astrophysics. Any comments?
Extraordinarily interesting to me. It was very interesting because I was doing a project with the kids. Um, we did that on the 30th of June, and we were talking the difference between Einstein and Newtonian physics, and dealing with the whole concept of Newton being able to actually kind of describe gravity as far as what it did and how it kind of acted, and then actually Newton actually describing actually what you took it to the next step to exactly what gravity or gravitation actually was. Um, and when we talk about very massive objects that can warp actually space or bends it, and of course it's going to have an effect. Anything that has an effect on space is going to have an effect on time. Um, it was very interesting to see how Einstein really described that. Now black holes were predicted certainly by Einstein when he was forming his his theory of general relativity. And now they're looking at this black hole at the center of the Milky Way, of which we are aware of. And now they're looking at those awesome relativistic effects. And I'm just loving it. I would love to look at that black hole. I would love to see, even though it would be extremely dark, but I would like to see the event horizon around that. That shit would be insane. That would be awesome to see something like that. But Ultimately, I wouldn't want to get near it, but I
Oh,
would love to
no,
see
no,
it.
no. Yeah, yeah. Let's keep you at arm's distance away.
Yeah. Because it bends light, so it's like if you could take a light beam and shine a light beam, you would actually see the light beam bend towards the whole of the that nothing really is able to bend light except something that has extraordinary mass, and
Mhm.
something like a black hole would have that. Um, so and see that they're still proving this theory is quite interesting. Um, so yeah, it's just awesome stuff. I don't know, I don't have much else to to add to it except that this is just it's great. It's just awesome to hear it. And this is some stuff that I was working in my tutorial program with some rather young, bright kids, and it's I wasn't aware of this. I would like to have kind of broken this article down more and put it into nice little um, a little easier format for some kids to kind of look at and just and listen to and kind of describe to them. But anyway, go ahead, Mike. You got anything to say? Oops, looks like he's muted.
Mm. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
you have anything to say right now? Anything to add on that?
Uh, I thought I don't obviously I don't understand general relativity as to the extent of you, but I was under the impression that nothing escapes the grips of a black hole. Now, by reading the article, I think they were saying it didn't get that close to being
Right,
caught in its net, but it's
right,
the closest they've observed an object getting close to a black hole without getting caught by
right.
its gravitational pull.
Yeah, right. And once that gravitational pull gets a hold of you from a black hole,
You
you're
done for
done. You're
right.
done. And well, and there are those who are thinking that black holes might actually be might, might actually be portholes to maybe other parts of the universe, or even to a new universe. Who
Mhm.
knows? But it's the ultimate enigma. But it could lead to something bigger. I would love to see us examine that deeper. More.
Mhm.
But we're also talking such insane distances
Yeah,
and
it's a little
such
bit.
insane forces that we've never
Said
encountered
it was
before.
26,000 light years away. This mass supermassive
Twenty-six
black hole.
thousand light years away, and that's traveling at the speed of light. Which I don't know if you know how fast the speed of light goes, but I'll
It's
just
like
give you an example. 186,000 miles in 1 second. That's how fast it goes. 770 million miles in an hour. And basically,
taking
you
26,000
travel one.
years.
Yeah, you travel 1 trillion miles. Oh, excuse me, 6 trillion miles in 1 year. 6 trillion miles in 1 year. I mean, so it's and then you're moving at those kind of speeds, and it still would take you 26,000 years traveling at the speed of light to get there. Uh, is
Yeah,
just let
mind
the
blowing.
size of our galaxy, let alone our universe. These are immensely insane distances. You
Mm.
know.
All right.
You said nothing can escape a black hole. I can think of a few YouTubers who fit that description. But let's go on to the next article.
Yeah, let's get on to this next article.
What's going on, everyone?
Complex, what's up, baby?
What's going on?
Yo,
What's
All
going
right.
on, man? What's going on?
This
checking in, man.
Yeah,
Checking in. How's everyone doing?
Chilling.
good, good,
pretty
good.
good, man. Pretty good. We're getting ready to
All
get
right.
into this heavy duty stuff.
Yeah,
But
man.
anyhow,
All right. This one comes from space.com. Titles NASA's new planet hunter begins its search for alien worlds. Written by Megan Bartos on July 28th. Article NASA's newest planet hunting telescope is officially at work. The Transitioning Exoplanet Surveillance Satellite, or TESS, which is designed to hunt for alien worlds around stars not too far from the sun, began gathering science data Wednesday, July 25th. Members of the instrument team announced yesterday, July 27th. TESS will send that initial data to Earth in August, with new observations arriving every 13.5 days after that, mission team members said in a statement. I'm thrilled that our planet hunter is ready to start uh, combing the backyard of our solar system for new worlds, Paul Hertz, director of NASA's Astrophysics Division, said in a statement. With possibly more planets than our stars, with possibly more planets than stars in our universe, I look forward to the strange, fantastic worlds we're bound to discover. TESS launched on April 18 into orbit around Earth and then underwent a period of testing to ensure the instruments was ready to use. It sent its first photograph, a test image, down to its handlers in May. The image showed 200,000 individual stars, many of which could be accompanied by at least one planet. TESS follows in the footsteps of NASA's iconic Kepler telescope, which in the course of two missions has identified 2,650 confirmed exoplanets, according to the space agency. Like Kepler, TESS will look for tiny dips in the brightness of individual stars caused by a planet passing between its star and the telescope in its orbit. But whereas Kepler was limited by poring over a small patch of sky during its primary mission, TESS will study almost all of the sky in its two planned years of observations. Wow. During that survey, it will focus on 200,000 brightest stars in the sky, which means the project should identify planets around many of the stars that skywatchers know and love. The team that designed TESS has calculated that the instrument could spot about 1,600 new exoplanets, including some the size of Earth. Some planets' test spots will likely become targets for a follow-up study by NASA's much-delayed James Webb Space Telescope, which will be able to study the atmospheres of those planets and begin characterizing them in more detail than TESS can manage.
Yeah, the James Webb is going to be dope.
Yeah, we went over that. Yeah, since we went over it, I've looked at other videos on it. Any
All right.
any other
Yeah, I
comments?
mean, exoplanet. I was just thinking about, I know people were talking about a habitable zone with these stars, where a planet, could be at a certain distance, and that would be that could be where life could actually exist. I think they saw one exoplanet where they thought the temperature on that planet was somewhere around 75 degrees or something of that nature, something where we could possibly walk on. Not that, not that it might have gases or stuff that might kill you, but
75
it
degrees
seems like
Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit?
Fahrenheit.
Okay.
That's it. Fahrenheit. So, they were postulating that could potentially be the temperature of some of these planets. Very interesting. Of course, with the massive expanse of this universe and just how vast it really is. It's actually beyond what you can comprehend. It's beyond comprehension. But something that's that's incomprehensible in size. There's no doubt to me that there are many other life forms out here, or civilizations. And now my question is, have they ever come here to visit us, or have they been around? But habitable planets that have the same combinations that we have here on Earth. I think, I think water is plentiful around the universe. So I would think that we may be rare, but we're not that extremely special. Meaning that there are probably billions of worlds that exist throughout the universe that are planet, and in distance and in size from their suns, from their respective suns.
Anybody else?
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's going on?
I'm doing
What's up, Anti-Grab? I know you got something to say about this.
Yeah, I think they found recently, or the total count is like 200 or 300 Earth-like, exoplanets.
Yep.
So, yeah, I have to agree with you. It's extremely likely that there is something out there. But if there isn't, then also that's kind of frightening too, to be the only living species in the universe.
That would be frightening, with the likes of some of the people walking around out here in this world, as stupid as fuck, and saying that this shit is the best. Get the fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? The fuck out of here. There's definitely something greater than us. That's for sure.
Oh my God, that was a good classic one right there.
Yeah, but all likelihood, probably the ones that exist, they were probably like us, our planet, like 2 billion years ago, where it's maybe just like single-celled organisms or algae or something. So that might be the life that we, end up finding instead of, sentient beings like us.
Yeah, that would be a long time for Pookie and Ray Ray to survive. But I guess the point that I want to make is that Celestron actually makes a telescope, and Lionel was actually looking at this quite a few times, but behind it, there's a telescope that they do make that can actually see other planets outside of our solar system.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
How big are those?
That's Celestron?
Is it the one that we saw that you were showing us last time?
Yeah, there's a 14-inch tube. It's a 14-inch tube. You got to buy all the DSLR camera, and you got to buy the motorized tripod mount to go with it, as well as the USB cable to plug into your laptop. But you do have consumer capabilities, at the retail scale, that you can actually go out and buy these telescopes and actually explore the solar system beyond where we are right now. So,
hey, you know what? Mark my words. I'm getting one of them. I'm serious. I'm getting one of them, man. That thing. Not only is it a beast, you see the lens on that. It's like a hard mineral water look. Man, it was so clean. Oh my God, whew, my goodness.
And you can see the moon clearly.
Yes.
I'm sure you can see. I'm sure you can see some of the larger craters and stuff. But I would love to be able to get one of those telescopes where you could just start to peer at some other galaxies to get at least a look at them. Not that you're going to be able to peer into them, but just take a look, at other galaxies and look at the distances that are there and what could potentially be in those galaxies.
From the video,
since, like I said, this universe is so extraordinarily huge. I mean, even our own galaxy, to cross it would take 100,000 light years. So, and that's just our galaxy. Forget about, the universe. So to conjecture upon what type of life might be out here, it's just, we can't say.
I think what you're trying to say is we have enough space to get away from these Pookies and Ray Rays and Cool Breezes. There's enough space out there to get away. So I think that's what you're saying. Correct me if I'm wrong.
There certainly is enough space for that. I can say that.
That telescope was actually on sale. I think like last weekend or something like that. I think it was marked down from like 10,000 to like something like 6,000 or something like that.
I'm getting one of those.
Yeah, I thought it was for 12. How much is it for? $10,000? You said 10 grand?
Yeah, I think it was like 10 grand.
Yeah. I think I was looking at it. I think it was between 10 to 12. I think you're right.
I'm gonna take a picture of it.
I mean,
send it through email to y'all.
Yeah, and I was looking at it. I think there's an kind of advertisement for that type of system right here on YouTube, and it looks like the picture quality that you're getting is insane. I mean, it's like you're sitting. If you're looking at the moon, it's like you're on a ship. Actually, you're looking right down like at the surface almost.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're literally damn near able to look at the surface of that joint. It's incredible. It's incredible. So yeah, I would love to have it. Only problem is I'd be looking at that bad boy so much, man. Damn, it would be crazy. You know, I would be addicted to it. That would be like crack. That would be like a crack pipe, you know, or something. You know, I wouldn't stay off of it. You know, especially clear nights.
Right. Any other comments?
And then you could look at planets like Jupiter and stuff like that, and look at its moons and all that. You could really get really critical looks at this stuff to show you just you know we're here on the Earth, but really we're just kind of a small thing out here. We're kind of tucked away, in one part of the galaxy. So to conjecture upon what else is out here is
I'm a little upset that. Yeah, I'm a little upset that because of Mars aligned up with the Earth. I didn't have a telescope to actually see it, the way I wanted to see it.
Yeah, well, I have a telescope, but I don't. It's not nearly that powerful. But I probably am going to want to invest in one. Really, I really would, because I think it's worth it.
Yeah,
I really do. I actually think it's worth it.
That telescope's going to last for years. That ain't something that's you're going to trade it in for a new one because it's 2020 or something like that.
Oh nah, man. You can. I mean, for all practical purposes, with that type of resolution, depending on what you really, maybe there might be some parts that you can put on to maybe upgrade it, but that's something you can keep for decades, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Decades. Decades. Just be able to upload some software and hook it onto some new systems and so forth. But yeah, I would think you would keep that for quite a long time. Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. That's pretty awesome stuff.
I know. Awesome. Next article.
Yeah, let's hit this. We got two more. For next to last, this is from BGR.com. Title: Canada's new radio telescope just picked up a strange signal from deep space. Written by Mike Weiner, dated August 2nd. Canada's shiny new telescope is up and running, and it just heard something very, very odd coming from deep space. The Canadian Hydrogen Intensity Mapping Experiment, or CHIME for short, is located in British Columbia, and it spends its time listening intently for signals beaming through the vacuum of space. Most of the time, radio telescopes like this don't hear anything out of the ordinary, but every so often an unexplained signal finds its way through the noise, and that's exactly what happened on July 25th. A news bulletin from the Astronomer's Telegram reveals that the new telescope detected what is known as a fast radio burst, or FRB. FRBs aren't uncommon, but they are quite special in that their origins are completely unknown. FRBs detected by astronomers here on Earth come from incredibly long distances, located so far off in space that we can't even see what might be creating them. The FRB detected in this case, called FRB 180725A, is particularly unique because it had a frequency as low as 580 millihertz. No FRB has ever been detected below a frequency of 700 millihertz before. While they are radio signals, FRBs don't hold any information that astronomers or researchers have been able to tap. Some have theorized that they are created by ultra-advanced alien civilizations, but that is little more than sci-fi speculation at the moment. It's far more likely that FRBs originate from a volatile black hole activity, perhaps even two black holes merging into one. One FRB in particular, FRB 121102, has been heard multiple times over the course of several years. Astronomers know it's the same radio burst because it originates from the exact same point in space every time. Its origin is thought to be a galaxy situated some 3 billion light years from Earth, and the power it would take for a radio signal to make it that far is absolutely unimaginable. Whatever it is, black holes colliding, a star exploding, or just some aliens having a really loud party, we'll probably have to wait a long time before science can say for certain. Now, let me say, if it took 3 billion years to hit Earth, we don't want, I sure do not want to go see them, that advanced species, because, you know, in a tiny 3 billion time period, they achieved high civilization by now.
Well, you got to figure this. Anything that has evolved to, you know, to have lived for 3 billion years, they probably, you know, they may be interested in us, but I think once they observed us, and they may have ability to actually observe us from a distance like that, or certainly be able to warp space and time in certain kind of ways where they could travel maybe some immense distances in a very short period of time. I think once they observed us and took a look at people like Trump and some of the Pookie and Ray Rays out here, I think these guys might back the fuck off and sit down and say, I don't know about this, B. You might want to chill. You know what I mean? You know, I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm just saying.
That's actually one of the theories. It's kind of like if you've ever watched Star Trek, like it's some kind of code where you're not supposed to disturb rising, alien species until they're ready for contact.
Yeah. I mean, they may not want to, they may not want to mess with you. They may have a whole, I would think that their whole idea of spirituality and so forth is at a very advanced level where that might even be a part of their science. They may have evolved to that level. Different game, I think they would be looking at us.
I was going to say, I would imagine if they were out here, the first thing they probably some sort of looking for is some sort of resource, right? Like, I mean, I think everything comes secondary, but there would be that primary impetus for them to be out exploring, right? They would be out in search of something. So I think that if they are looking elsewhere than wherever they're coming from, they've probably exceeded what was available to them.
I don't buy that. And the only reason why I say I don't buy that is because if they become that advanced, they would have been able to evolve their culture and society to a level to where they wouldn't need any resource from you. They would have figured out their resource issues.
No, I mean, what if there were things here, right, that are like deficient where they come from, and then let's not also gone through their evolutionary, their evolutionary cycles where if they've evolved to the point where they're so advanced, right, they would have had whatever sort of difficult evolutionary periods to get to that point. Which means that they've probably learned, about extraction of resources and how it could deplete one planetary body, and why you would need and acquire resources elsewhere. I mean, that's largely the story of the Anunnaki. If you follow the Sumerian text, they were here to mine gold.
Yeah, you know, I don't buy much of that. I think if you're that advanced, you necessarily don't need that. I think you've already gotten that. You know, you could mine many other areas around their environments or their space to get that. I think
yourself.
I think that they might be looking just at just what anyone else might be looking for, just other people, you know, and observe them and see if they're cool like that, you know. I think that just may be that simple, you know, as opposed to have to get something from you. I think that's been put into our heads by our rather paranoid, you know, psychotic thinking, you know, because man is a fucking psychopath to a large extent if you take a look at the amount of killing and savagery.
You mean tinfoil snapbacks?
Sociopathic. And let's just say if they it's very conceivable that a very advanced life form could have advanced without violence, without the concept of having to kill or destroy in some ways. Think about a life form that could have evolved like that. So, you know, we're assuming a lot of things, you know, that our CIA and our FBI and some of the other sick fuckers that are running shit out here may assume. That may not be the same thing for them as it is for us. And
but
that
what if
might be a huge issue as well. But I just throw it out there. I'm not saying. But anyway.
Yeah, no. I mean, no. I mean, look, who the hell knows at this point, right? Like, this is all presupposing and right, but you know, election methods that are taking place right now that, you know, unbeknownst that it's just kind of like a normal thing that's taking place, right? But mundane activities that we do actually serve to, you know, offshoot resources elsewhere.
I would have thought that they would have been mining asteroids, right? So if we're thinking about that, they would have to already have tapped their own, asteroids belt, you know, to grab their own resources. I just don't see them coming here to get something that they already have.
Exactly, and check this out. You know, I don't know if you guys have been, you know, looking at this one star system that may have a Dyson sphere they're saying around it, but it's conceivable. But it's conceivable that a civilization that is exceedingly advanced may know how to mine may have unlimited energy that they could mine and use their sun that we should be using, of course, as just a power source, or other suns as they roll about and just mine their power and keep it moving. And it could be exceedingly cheap, endless power, and they're rolling on that. And, you know, they're not sitting around with some oil company or something else like that, fucking jacking their people around.
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned
they have unlimited power sources.
Right.
So you have to think, if they're that advanced, they're thinking on multiple levels, far different. And you know, we may be the equivalent of like a dog to them, you know, and you putting physics in front of them, and then, you know, having a dog understand physics. I mean, shit may be like that, bro. You know, shit may be on some shit like that, dude. You know what I'm saying? You know, I mean, it may be on that type of level. Anyway, go ahead.
You know, if you guys know the physicist Michio Kaku.
Yeah, Kaku. Yeah.
Yes. He actually kind of like theorized this, and and as referred to what Ngon just said about like harnessing their stars. I think he called it like level 3 civilizations, right? So I think level.
They'll be a level 2.
Was it?
What Ngon mentioned, they will be a level 2 according to his scale.
Oh, the harnessing their own sun.
Yeah, to be a level 3, you got to harness. According to him, the galaxy.
Yeah. Galaxy.
Right. So at those levels, you know, we're not even, you know, that particularly that far either. You know, if we're able to, you know, have or develop cold fusion, if we're able to develop atomically precise manufacturing, you know, capabilities, that means we can, just using basic building blocks like carbon, oxygen, what have you, we can build literally anything. Fruits, you know, cars, airplanes, buildings, just from, I don't know, a banana, right? So I'm pretty sure at that level, they're just doing, traveling just to get to know the universe even more, right? Because there's always more learning.
And possibly help to pass on knowledge to those who are prepared, and then look at the savages and the Ray Rays and Pookies of the universe and just step past their retrograde asses and keep it moving. And you know what I mean? I mean, I think that's kind of what you'd be looking at. I think, and I think that's just what some of these advanced species are on. And I think, it's very conceivable to me that there are some highly advanced species around this universe that are in contact with each other and are basically are enjoying each other's company, and they're cruising around the rest of the universe, observing other high butter laid shit, saying, "Oh, this is butter laid."
Let me ask you guys. Who is the global debt? Who is that owed to? I mean, I'm just throwing a question out there.
Well, what global debt?
The global debt?
Yeah.
Who's it owed to?
Yeah, who's it owed to?
That's a consortium. It's a consortium of nations. But anyway, go ahead.
I'm just asking the question. Who is it owed to?
A lot of people. I don't know what your question is. There's no one person who holds most of the debt.
Are you trying to say we owe money to aliens?
I'm not saying that we owe. I'm not saying we owe money to aliens. I'm just some of the concepts and ideas that the planet that we
repeat that.
Oh, I said some of the concepts and things we do as functions of as humans aren't actually normal. So that's the reason why I'm proposing these questions. I'm not merely saying that, like, the presence is here. Well, what I am suggesting though is that there are things that we do as humans that aren't they're not in synergy who we are as organic functioning beings. So concepts like debt.
I take off that.
I question that to a degree. Andy, grab.
Wait, what?
I say you gotta take off that tinfoil hat, bro.
No,
I'm posing a question. It's not a hey, your debt is
I was going to say
aliens.
this. No. I was going to say this. I think a lot of the retrograde stuff that we do now, like use gasoline when we know that we have power sources that we can immediately use that can just make gasoline, obsolete. It's an obsolete energy source, and it's been obsolete for about 100 years. And some of the other things that we are using that are very retrograde still to this day, but we use them. I believe we have to go through some of this to evolve through some of this, and it looks like our evolution is that of trial, error, and and consistently evolving. And there seems to be a tremendous amount of violence that we have as well. So we have to fuck each other up and go to war for a little while before we can sit down and learn properly. So I think all of these things we say that's unnatural. I believe these wild, ridiculous things that we do are part of our evolutionary process. And whatever we will evolve to, we will have come through a road of a great degree of trial and tribulation, and it'll stand on a mountain of blood as well, which is kind of terrible to think about. But that's how I think we roll. And depending on just how bad we are, we might even throw ourselves back into another dark age. Because when we get to the next level, and we start talking about pyramids and this kind of stuff, I think we had hit some ages of very high technology and very high comprehension, and we and then the Pookies and the Ray Rays of those cultures took over and destroyed them, and left enigmatic symbols of that great past, but yet what it really meant was lost. And then the newer age savages that came about that hated other groups of other people wanted to keep this information back to keep us kind of in a dark age. So that's what I think is the human epic. And if we can get past that, we'll do some great things. But those are my beliefs. It's harsh against us, but I think, at the end, there might be some light at the end of the tunnel. But we seem to be very destructive, and we hit very high levels of comprehension, and then we drop back down to very retrograde views about things. And it seems like we have a roller coaster kind of going on.
Okay, that was the line of logic I was following when I was saying that, an advanced species would have gone through the same process, right? Which would be be pursuing resources in other. Destroying civilizations, environments, planets, solar systems through that very cyclic process that you just talked about.
Yeah, and which would make us a dangerous species to be spacefaring. Our it would make us very dangerous because
wait a minute.
Could you imagine Pookie and Ray Ray?
What? They probably put us in this isolated part of the
hey.
Put them over there where they 26,000 light years away from.
I'm just saying, man. Sometimes you got to think about these things a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I just look at just how violent we are. It doesn't make sense. I was looking at this is off subject for a little bit, but still relating to what we're talking about. Just the Battle of the Somme in World War I. That went on for like 5 months, and you had over 1 million people, casualties killed. This is a war. This is a fucking war. Over 100 years ago, and you had over 1 million people killed in one battle. What the fuck is that? A million casualties, at least over 300,000 deaths. Really? Is that how we rolling out here? So and that was in the First World War. Forget about the Second World War, and just look at the shit we're doing today. It's whack. It's fucking whack, man. I don't know. Any alien species rolling down looking at us would be like, I don't know, man. You got too many Pookies and Ray Rays on this motherfucker. Let's get the fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? This is Pookie down. This is Pookie down up in here. Let's get out of here. So, that's kind of how that's what I would think. I don't think we're a safe species. I don't believe that we are.
Any other comments?
Oh.
Well, that's about it, though. No, that's it. Any other?
Nothing else?
No.
You guys not talking about the pyramids?
Pyramid.
Oh wait, hold on. Hold on now. Don't
have that one on there.
Don't wipe my neck off. Let me get that pulled up. I want to get jumped on. Okay. All right, here you go. Got it. All right.
Can I just read what Young Grizzly just wrote there real quick in the
chat? It's pretty funny.
Because he's referencing the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where basically the dumb and not sent away to another planet called Earth.
YouTube video.
Yeah.
Pyramid of Giza has own energy source. In the video, they're saying the small, narrow passageways in the Pyramid of Giza weren't there just because they were focusing some type of energy. I forgot what they said, energy, what specific energy they were saying. They were focusing some type of energy through those narrow passageways. And that's about all I gathered from the video. For what specific reason, of course, they don't know. For a specific purpose, for what, they don't know. They just found this out, and they're continuing to find things out about the pyramids.
Yeah, I think they're big. I think they were a giant power source. I think the pyramids were a giant power source, as well as a giant communication device or devices to not only to communicate with other people within their realm, but across the nations. I think that was the source of your first ancient internet, and I think that they were able to transmit not only free electricity through the air like Tesla had, but I believe that they were actually able to project sounds and images as well. I think that's the kind of level that they were on, and it was kind of interesting because they looked in one of the Great Pyramids and they had a secret room that they found that was actually found back in 2012, and they put a small robot to go up into that space. And what they found was a giant copper wire that was coming out of the ground. It was very big, very wide. It went back down into the ground like in a big loop. And they had a diagram on the wall in hieroglyphics that looked like
somebody holding a light bulb.
No, it actually looked like it was wiring designs. So that these pyramids were actually wired. And of course, they had lights and these kind of things like that. Because you have the Baghdad. You had the Baghdad battery and all that. So they had lights. So they had lights and all that kind of stuff. They had that. And these pyramids were basically a power source where you were actually able to get wireless energy. And it looks like the obelisks and these kind of things were actually kind of like receiving devices. So what I believe is where we have micro technology today, I think they had megalithic technology back in those days. And when we look at the pyramids, it's from its casings, the stones, granite, and everything else that they have there, it produces not only magnetism but electricity. So it's like a big giant kind of battery, and that's and that's what it's designed about. And I think that's where the real history of this has been crushed, because it was in Africa, and it was from African peoples, and they were at a level far beyond anything the Europeans and them were in. They were still in the caves running around, and and Africans were out there building these monuments that are far older than 5,000 years old. In fact, like Brian Forrester and some of the other scientists who are looking at this, and geologists who are looking at this from the weathering patterns on it, are saying they're at least 10,000 years old. And then you have Forrester and others who are looking at these pyramids and looking potentially at how old they could be because of their positioning with the stars, and how some of these stars have shifted on the walls from where they've had them. They're saying that these things may go back to 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50,000 BC. So that's what we're really talking about. That's right. That's what I think about the pyramids. Because it's funny, because in all of the hieroglyphics and all the papyrus and all the stuff that we've seen from those times, there was never any information about the building of the pyramids, because they were already there. So they're far older than 5,000 years old. Far older than that.
And FYI, when I say somebody holding a light bulb, I didn't say that to be joking. It actually
no. You're right.
There's actually
correct about that.
there's actually some sketchings or paintings on one of the walls that look
That's
like
right.
it's literally holding a giant light bulb.
Right. And remember, there's no soot on. If they had fires and they were only using torches, you would still have residual soot on the walls, and there is none of that. So that immediately just eliminates that whole prospect. And you're talking about these places that go deep into the ground. So
do you guys see that image right there?
What image?
Earth,
you
Wind,
put something up? I don't. Yeah.
Fire.
Yes. Yep.
This is because it reminds me of an Earth, Wind, and Fire album cover, right? It's it's bifold, so when you open it up, right, like the pyramid, a lot of these apparatus, right, like. I read this, and so we're just talking about this. I was thinking about, I was like, wait, what? They had like album cover where they had like a pyramid lit up and all this stuff, right? All this electricity and it's kind of.
Yeah, I think that's what was going on back then, and I think that was just very normal. There is a great program I like you guys to see. It's called The Pyramid Code, and you guys should watch that. Netflix has it. You might even get it on YouTube if you pull up The Pyramid Code, and it's got about 4 or 5 different programs in a series that really get into this, and it just puts a whole different spin on it. You've been lied to. You've been told a lie, a lie. And that's a lot of your history. It's a fucking lie, and these things were something much greater than that.
All right.
Agreed.
Any other points? Anything want to be said?
Oh.
Before we get on up out of here?
Nah, it's good stuff.
All right. Well, with that said, don't forget to come back Wednesday. We have our geopolitics. With that said, same bad time, same bad channel. With that said,
I would say so.
we out. Talk to y'all later.